You mentioned a few social networks there, as you talked about Instagram and a few others. And I thought we should talk about your friends over at Meta and your good buddy, Mark Zuckerberg, because we talked about this last time.
Right.
And if people don't remember our first conversation, we had a really engaged conversation about the metaverse and gaming. And we got a little serious at the end because you said, look, the biggest fight of humanity is the fight for an open metaverse. Mm-hmm. And, you're not a guy that gets, that gravely serious that often. And when you said that to me, it really made an impression on me. And you said, Brian, this is more important than any fight in history because this is literally our future reality. And I'm curious of how that fight's going. What do you see happening at Meta? They just, I think, laid off 11,000 people. Obviously, they're trying to create a metaverse. They even renamed their company, which maybe is the greatest marketing move for the metaverse, or not. You just also recently came out and said, I think they were spending $10 billion last year or this year on the metaverse, and you said they're going to have to spend a lot more than that.
Correct.
In order to engage people.
Yes.
As honest as you can be, how do you feel about Meta? How are they doing? What do we need to look out for going forward? Is that why Animoca's here?
So first of all, on one hand, I have a lot of respect for what Meta is trying to do in terms of trying to sort of claim its space in the area. But I also feel somewhat sorry for them because it's a very hard fight at this point. Last year when I said that, the world was different. There was more of a threat around, do big platforms come? Will people not understand? But today I think it's different, right? Today I feel like the reason why I said that $10 billion a year is just not enough is because if you think about, for instance, what happened just in this year or even last year, billions of dollars of digital property was transacted for a fee typically 5% or less. And that's what it means to have this economic freedom because you're building it on chain and you don't have to basically bear a high tax as you do in a closed ecosystem. If you're building your own private metaverse, you have to build all the infrastructure and all the cost base of maintaining your private network, which is what we have in Web 2, for instance, right? Which is why Meta has to charge 47%, right? And maybe even more because it can't be financially sustainable.
Is it that high? 47%.
It's 47%, right? Right? But I mean, it's what we see in the world, right? If you participate in global trade, then not only do you have a competition, you have the scale of global trade. Whereas in the open metaverse, when you buy land in Sandbox or when you transact on that system, it's a 5% tax. So if I'm already making this much value in the open metaverse, there has to be a really, really good reason for me to go and pay 47%. Now, by the way, in the real world, we make that choice all the time. We might want to live in Sweden for social services. We might want to live, in countries that have high tax rates because it affords us a side of living or benefits we're willing to do. So we're not saying that ecosystems can exist that charge a high tax, but the benefit that Meta is providing to build an environment where you're willing to pay that tax, $10 billion is not enough, right? That's the point I'm making.
Right.
But I think it's brave, right, to do what he's doing, and he's very dogged about this, right? He may be laying off other areas, but Meta we're still building. We're building it out, and I think I may have mentioned this last time, but we have to remember that I think Mark is incredibly smart, and he does know what's happening because he did try to make a cryptocurrency with Libra, and he has built within Facebook some of the new blockchain technologies that are out there today, such as Aptos and Miston, for instance. These are companies that have emerged from Facebook, but after they had to scrap their blockchain dreams, they basically sort of went and did their own thing, right? But it started there. So there is an understanding of what that means. It's just he can't participate in this way. I think Facebook is facing a classic innovator's dilemma. And I don't know, how much of this is, the internal workings, I don't work there, or how much of it is maybe Mark himself. That I don't know, of course, but I do think he's in a tough spot right now. Because the people who are entering the space, anyone who goes into Web3 and understands what it means, it's much bigger than just the product, right? If you're a gamer and you're a Web2 gamer, you don't understand Web3, you don't understand property rights, then you look at the surface, right? You look at the surface and you say, well, this is not the best looking game, this is not the most attractive thing. But when you actually understand what it stands for, when you understand the idea, the promise, the prospect, and the ability of it, then you don't care that much necessarily about the initial gloss and glean and what it looks like. You care about the underlying, the freedom that's attached to it. When I won't name necessary countries, but you can go to countries that are perhaps much better run than America, that have better infrastructure. I mean, when I go and when I stay in Menlo, sometimes my internet doesn't work. My phone isn't that efficient, right? And there's many aspects about American life where you go, why can't this work like some other countries where it's more efficient? But there is still something attractive around what America offers, which is the freedom. The fact that you can have that kind of liberty and do the type of things, despite the fact that it's a little messy. The fact that you can have disagreements, for instance, the fact that you have these freedoms is really, I think, that powerful idea. And then you prefer to be in America, right? The image of America is what's powerful. The idea of America is much more powerful than necessarily being in America, if you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
And that's the metaverse, that's Web3. And once you're infected with this idea of digital property rights, of freedom, of economic freedom in the digital platforms, you never want to go back. And I think this is the fight that's becoming harder and harder to fight. And you can see when Facebook said, okay, Instagram will now allow NFTs from Polygon and we can mint NFTs. That is a kind of admission of saying, we're not going to win a fight by creating an entirely closed ecosystem. We must engage them now, which perhaps 3 years ago, if they were building everything themselves, maybe wouldn't have been the case.
So we don't have to worry about them anymore?
No, I think we do have to worry about it. You can never count them out. I think we need to continue to sort of put up the good fight, and we need to continue to be paranoid, especially in this industry for all sorts of reasons. But I think, the battlegrounds in terms of moving towards that direction, I think is set in a, call it, positive way. Obviously, things like what happened to FTX is not necessarily helpful in terms of the space in and of itself, but it hasn't deterred people building in this environment. So I actually think, generally speaking, we're on the right track, but we can never be complacent.
Is Meta the only threat we have to a closed metaverse?
No, I don't think so. I think all the traditional gaming companies basically are looking at the space. They're all trying to build something in the metaverse. I mean, I think Microsoft has generally been a good actor in the space, but their acquisition of Activision was clearly stated as a metaverse sort of acquisition, for instance. So they're looking at the space, for instance, actively. And are they going to do an open metaverse, or are they going to build a closed one? We don't know yet. But if it's Activision by culture, probably it will try to be a closed one. And I think this is just how many people are constructed in thinking of wanting to control the network effect as opposed to sharing the network effect. That's just something that people have been trained for so many decades of their life. How do you untrain that as well is an area that will take some time, which is why generally we're more optimistic of the younger people that join in the space, because there is a strong belief in building this better future, as opposed to trying to grow back to the ways in which they were taught. That's not to say that there are not lessons there, but this is a different paradigm. And so we need some fresh thinking that enters the space.
I'm looking for partners, collaborators, colleagues who want to join forces with me around the globe and create real value, generational wealth, and financial freedom for everyone else around the world. Get involved in the cryptocurrency markets, get involved in the NFT markets. This is your moment. Life all comes down to a few moments. Don't let this pass. Now it's not too late. Next year's gonna be too late. Ultimately, this is about freedom. That's the way I see it. This is about giving power back to the people and enabling billions of people worldwide to use the financial markets to improve their lives and those of their friends and their families and their communities. Honestly, I think it's a violation of human rights not to allow people basic access to financial services. Because right now people are being kept in the dark, they're being robbed of education, and it's a travesty. And so I'm looking for people that want to join me and be a part of this solution. And that all happens inside the DeFi Academy. The gains my students are making are absolutely amazing. Double, triple digit gains in the first month alone. That's amazing. This will change your life. Now is the time to get involved. I'm gonna tell you exactly how my students in my academy made money in the last 30 days. I'm talking about real trading results. And let me just whet your appetite a little bit. Let me hit you with some numbers. I'm talking Brendan from New Zealand is up 68.77% on the month. Steve from Europe up 83%. Albert in Singapore up 169.9% on one single trade. I got Susan up 153% on her call options alone, also rocking 139% returns and 442% returns as well on individual trades. These are people that are changing their financial future in the last 30 days, but it's based on trading discipline.
I've graduated over 500 students from inside my academy from over 54 countries around the world. It's amazing. When it comes to crypto, DeFi, and blockchain, we love this space. We truly believe it's the future. This is down to our core. It's authentic to what we're doing, and everybody can tell through the camera because you can't make this stuff up.
If you're watching me now, wherever you are, I implore you, take 60 seconds right now and join my academy. Apply today.
Now you've got a chance. Life all comes down to a few moments. What are you going to do? What's the choice that you're going to make?